Hey guys, Bix Weir, roadtoruta.com. I am very excited to have Ken Schwartz on from Purple Power C60. We are at this point. First of all, Ken, welcome. It's great to have you on the road.
Glad to be on.
It's been a while. We talked with the three amigos, Cliff and Snippy, a while back, but now is the time people have to start thinking about their health. And I wanted to get you on for a couple of reasons. One, to announce that we have a new partnership with you guys. Road to Ruta and Purple Power have teamed up to get you guys healthy with some C60 at a discount, which is great. And it's quality C60. And number two, I want to talk about kind of what C60 is and why it's important right now in this process. I'm telling everybody to get as healthy as they can to fight off whatever crap the bad guys throw at us. And I think C60 is a big part of that, along with the chaga mushroom, vitamin D, vitamin C, and all the other things. And Ken is a scientist, a man of wisdom that is not taught to him necessarily from the criminals that are running our system. So Ken, first of all, welcome to the Road to Ruta. And how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a reasonable day outside. A little rain today, which is always nice.
Excellent. As far as your introduction to C60, I mean, I got introduced to C60 through Cliff, and he mad scientist everything. I assume you do too. How did you first come about C60, and why do you think it's such a great thing for your health, and especially right now when we need it?
Well, I came through. I learned about C60. I was working on the metal oxygen fusion reactor project.
Of course, the metal oxygen action fusion whatever project. Okay, good.
And one of the things when we did the research, it was like the people that had been doing similar research. It was the late doctor this and the late doctor that, right? They were pretty much all dead, and it had something to do with their research. So, because we didn't know what was really going on, we eventually figured out what happened to them. But so we just wanted to cover our asses basically. And so I went out working. We had shielding and all that, but there's mysterious things we don't know about, right? There's always something like that. So I went out and I discovered this stuff called C60, and they gave one set of rats C60. They gave the control rats didn't get any. They hit them with a fatal dose of radiation, and like all the C60 rats lived, and the other ones, they all died. Control rats died almost immediately. So he said, when I read about that, a couple studies like that, I said, that's the stuff I want to get. So I got a couple sources. We were taking it during the experiment, which was successful. And but I kept taking it afterwards, just a little bit. I wasn't really faithful to it, took it on and off. And because I had, and things I noticed, like the afternoon blahs went away, at 2 o'clock after you have the lunch, especially if you've got too many carbs at lunch, you kind of crash and burn, and just a little bit more mental focus. And it was going on. And then about seven months after I'd been started taking it, I went to my eye doctor, and my dry macular degeneration, or what they call DRUES, had disappeared. And
wow.
Yeah, the eye doctor was a really old guy. He had never seen that before and in his whole career. So he thought that was pretty interesting. And after that, it kind of started by that time. Gary Rodriguez, he was our engineer on the project. He had developed wet macular degeneration. And we have a YouTube channel called C60 Purple Power. And we talk a little things. And there was if you go to the show's the episode Eyes on C60, he had like these before and after pictures. You could look at his inside of his eyeball that the doctor had taken, and there was all these heinous lesions on it. And after taking about a tablespoon of the C60 and Mct Coconut Oil for a year, because he also had diabetes, that's part of the problem that caused it in the first place. His wet macular degeneration has totally disappeared, and his type 2 diabetes went away. And that was that's what you can see those pictures on that Eyes on C60 episode.
So great story about how you came about it. I think I did hear that once a long time ago. What I want to know, and this is what I asked Cliff a while back. It wasn't I think it was about C60, or it was about chaga, and how it actually works in the body. I think C60 would be classified as an antioxidant. Give us an idea of, everybody knows you take a swig and there's things over time you'll feel better, but give us an idea of how it really works.
Okay, well, you can see kind of behind me, that's what the C60 molecule looks like. 60 carbon atom shaped like a little soccer ball. And what happens when you take it, it'll pass it has to be dissolved in oil. It has no solubility in water. So it kind of travels along with the oil. So you take that, it goes internally or topically, and it'll pass the gut blood barrier, and then it'll get in the blood, and it'll travel all over the body and get everywhere. It also passes the blood brain barrier and goes right through that. Also, and it's actively uptaken by the cells. So it can just pass right through a cell membrane because it's lipophilic. So it can go right through, and the cell membrane will close up right behind it. It's even better than endocytosis. And though it's a variety of that. And then what really works well is it accumulates the mitochondria actively uptaken. And we're talking because we got a little gray hair here. So one of the things mitochondria do is they're the powerhouse of the cell. They make ATP and a whole bunch of other key nutrients for your body. But the main thing is there's a thing called superoxide. That's when your mitochondria, they're little furnaces, right? So they burn and they produce pretty strong oxidative radicals. And superoxide is the worst one, and that's an oxygen with an extra electron on it. And so usually the body uses a thing called SOD, superoxide dismutase, to turn that to hydrogen peroxide. Then catalase turns hydrogen peroxide back to a water and an oxygen. Well, as we get older, a lot of that, the larger cell that supplies the mitochondria with its materials, kind of reduces its ability to produce SOD. So the mitochondria don't have enough SOD to run. And so since they're self-regulating organelles, they have to kind of turn down the furnace. Well, C60 is an SOD mimic. So your mitochondria actively uptake it. And once it's in there, it works like SOD. Instead of SOD, it actually will steal the electron off of superoxygen. So the oxygen turns back to just a regular oxygen. And then it gives that electron to a hydrogen ion that it pulls out of the environment. There's a whole chemistry, we can talk about that, but and so it doesn't even use the catalase. So catalase levels rise. And that's like if people use C60, a lot of times if you got totally white hair, it'll come back salt and pepper. So, and that's because the white hair is caused by hydrogen peroxide bleaching it out. So the catalase, if you get catalase levels rise, your hair will get lighter.
So you can tell people with C60 they don't use Grecian formula. They're actually using C60.
Yes, that's right. And the other is the other thing that's once the mitochondria get back online, they make ATP, which is the energy molecule of the cell. 95% of all the metabolism of the cell is done by ATP. So now your ATP levels go back. And then the other thing people will notice is, so you get, you have more energy, you get the mental clarity, you have more physical energy. The other thing is that mitochondria also make pregnenolone, which is the precursor molecule for all the hormones. So your hormone levels will rise across. So you'll get more melatonin in your pineal gland. So you'll sleep better. You'll get more human growth hormone and all the other things that are in the pituitary hypothalamus complex there. And so, which is the kind of like the master gland, and you get that. And and the same with the thyroid or the adrenals, that people know has a significant increase in virility if you take C60. So that's one of the side effects.
That's another great piece of news. So one of the things that on the road to Ruta we are really focusing on is we have to dance around certain words, and we will dance around them, but you all know what I'm talking about, is certain illnesses. How does C60 help people when certain illnesses are involved, people getting sick, the yearly cold, or whatever that illness happens to be?
Well, it's one of the things. Well, it's really one of the things about C60. It's a selective antioxidant. That means it only gets rid of superoxide. Gets rid of superoxide, hydrogen, probably maybe hydrogen peroxide. We're not sure. The hydroxyl radical, that's an OH. That's a water missing a proton. It's got the electron, and peroxynitrite. So it doesn't interfere with things like nitrogen oxides, and which is a signaling molecule. That nitrogen oxide is what makes your capillaries, expand or contract. And also there's some other signaling molecules the body uses that are reactive oxidative species based on iron, sulfur, and zinc. So C60 doesn't interfere with any of them. They gave like rats 1 gram per kilogram, which is like 10,000 times what a person might be taking. No ill effects. So that's one of the things that you can take lots of C60 and you don't have to worry about like an overdose. Because if you took vitamin D or vitamin E too much, you can overdose on it because it'll mess with the signaling molecules in your body, and then you have problems. But C60 won't do that. But let's say you have a certain something and you take it. Well, one of the things that inflammation causes is oxidative radicals are usually cause inflammation. Or if you're getting cells are being damaged, C60 kind of it fights inflammation, but it supports immunity. So one of the things they've actually did scientific studies with rats, and it prevented cytokine storms. So you don't get the cytokine storm that that happens, especially if some people had something happen to them, and then they get a wild type virus, they might have one of those cytokine storms. Well, you got C60, it's in scientific animal studies, it prevented that. And it's just as, things break down, you get a lot of oxidative radicals. And so it kind of smooths, it helps the immune response, because the C60 goes everywhere. So if you're taking C60, like in one of these, there might be something like 10 to the 20th. Oh, well, that's kind of, that's the green screen. Yeah. 10 to the 20th. Here, I'll get a purple one. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 10 to the 20th molecules of C60 a bottle. So you might have 10 to the 17th molecules. That's 10 with 17 zeros. So it's everywhere. So like your immune cells will actively uptake it, and they use to moderate response, because let's say if your immune cells aren't fully functional, they don't have the SOD they need to run, the mitochondria functioning. So all across the board, your mitochondria function, you get and you get much better thing. And then the other thing C60 does is a whole process we'll probably talk later, is it increases your stem cells. We've had like 70-year-old guys on C60. We have several of them. They'll go in, they'll do a stem cell treatment, and they'll have like the stem cell levels of 20-year-old. And so the stem cells are really critical for your immune system, because when your immune system is challenged, it needs to call up the reinforcements. And the way it does that is by changing stem cells into whatever immune type cell it needs. And so when you're challenged, you're going to have an army of stem cells there ready to change into whatever type of immune cell that your body needs. And we've had husband and wife teams where one got a certain disease that's been going around, and the other one did too, because they're husband and wife, right? And one was taking C60 and it was really mild, hardly anything, where the husband wasn't taking it and he got pretty bad case. So we've had lots of things like that happen.
That is great news and a great story. I mean, I wish we can talk about specific things that the whole planet is dealing with right now. But again, the government doesn't want us to talk about certain things, and I'm willing to play the game, but it's information that people want to know and need to know. And you said that there isn't really an amount that you can overdo with C60, obviously within certain parameters for everything. But I did try. Cliff was talking about how weightlifters were taking C60 in huge dosages before certain events and things like that. So I did try one time to chug one of this is the full bottle, about a half a bottle of C60. Well, it wasn't the C60 that was the problem. It was chugging half a bottle of olive oil.
Oh yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, your body takes a while to if you've never taken a oil straight, your body takes a while to digest, to learn how to digest that. So usually when you start taking it, take it with a little bit of food, but after a while your body will learn how to do that with the gallbladder and stuff, and will release it, and so you won't have a problem. But yeah, the first time, if you take too much oil, it's the oil itself. That's why I recommend like the avocado oil. It's much smoother. Mm-hmm. In fact, when the C60 was out there, the first C60, the only C60 I could find was olive oil, because everybody, the science studies had been done in that, but so there's nothing available. But I kind of have a sensitive digestive system, so let's say if I took like a shot or two of olive oil, well, I would be visiting the bathroom kind of soon. Yeah. So I found that avocado oil, we also have an avocado oil, and in the Mct coconut oil. And that's basically the MCTs, those are called medium chain triglycerides, and your liver can turn them into ketones just like that. And so they're a flex fuel for your cells. So if you've got like a glucose processing issue, you can, it'll turn it into ketones. Then those cells can use it immediately as energy. A lot of athletes also use the coconut oil, MCT coconut, because it gives them like an instant boost of energy, because you get those ketones. So, but that's kind of like a hack for athletes.
I would like to stress that when I first got introduced to C60, I had bought Purple Power, and I felt great after a month, and I knew it was working. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna get C60, but since all C60 is the same, I'm going to go get this stuff called Good and Cheap C60 and get, more juice for my money. And I didn't feel anything. It wasn't the same. I don't know why. It might be mental, but it just wasn't the same. Is there a different way that different processors make this stuff, or is it all the same?
Oh no, it's quite different, and depending on what it is. Now, I want to say most of the original C60 people out there, they're good people that make a great product. But once it got kind of blown up and people started hearing about it, there was a lot of like fly-by-nighters go in there and start just putting product out that really wasn't real. And it's the same problem that happened with the CBD market when it went. And just as what we use sublimated C60. There's two ways, that most C60s made the same way. It was discovered. It was discovered in 1985, and three guys, Harry Kroto, Richard Smalley, and Robert Curl, got a Nobel Prize for its discovery. But it actually it solved a mystery of something floating in outer space, and it's actually C60 is actually produced in the outer atmospheres of giant red stars in outer space. It's also produced on various things like lightning bolts and meteoritic impacts on Earth. But so that's actually how you make it in the lab. You actually have like a rod of carbon in a light 1/10 of an atmosphere of helium, and they hit it with like electrical discharges. And if you're lucky, you can get about 10% of that carbon to turn into little carbon-60 fullerenes. But then there's the process of separation. And there's two methods. We use sublimation. Sublimation, if you remember from your high school chemistry, it's like evaporation. It's when a solid turns into a gas, then turns back into a solid. And so they take the C60 with ashes, put it in the sublimator, heat it up to 400 degrees Celsius. And at that temperature, C60 turns into a gas. It floats to the other side of the sublimator where it condenses on the plates. And that's how we get 99.99% pure C60, which is the sort of C60 you want. And it's also never been exposed to solvents. The other method to separate it is to use methylbenzene, toluene, which is kind of not a particularly good thing for you. And it'll dissolve the C60, and then they run it through diffusion columns. And then until they can get like a pure thing of C60, then they flush it out. Then you've got to like bake it in the oven a whole bunch of times to kind of boil off the solvent. You never get rid of all of it really, even though at 99.99%, it's pretty much all gone. But that's also one of the problems is 99.99% C60 is more expensive than gold.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, there you go. And just from as a user, because I know you guys will go through this too. When you start taking C60, if you get the good stuff like Purple Power, you're going to feel amazing. And you're going to think, okay, it's expensive because it is expensive because it's expensive to make. But at the same time, the farther you go down that food chain, and I tried it, you start losing faith in it because it no longer worked. Well, it wasn't that it didn't work, is that I was buying shit C60. And after a few, like 6 months of using the other one, I'm like, this stuff doesn't work. I stopped using it altogether. And then I had heard, I think Cliff saying, you got to buy the real stuff. I'm like, holy shit, maybe that was it. And I got Purple Power again. And I had that same feeling of better functionality afterwards. So from my experience, going for C60 that you're not sure about is a crapshoot. And I don't want anybody making crapshoots. Anyway, but yeah, and I could tell the difference. When you have the real stuff, you'll understand. And yeah. That's some words of wisdom from Bix Weir on the road to Ruta, that I make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes, but I try to figure out where I went wrong on those mistakes. One was chugging half a bottle of C60 and sitting on the toilet for a day or two. Nothing bad happened. It's just like chugging half a bottle of olive oil and saying, okay, everything's been fine. No, you're going to be on the toilet for a while. And
you got to build up for that. Some people can do that, but your body has to build up for that. And also another thing, C60 has a bit of a stimulatory effect, a bit like caffeine. So we recommend you take it in the morning and not like late in the evening, because it might keep you up a bit at night.
Okay.
It gets everything, all your circuits get going. So you get kind of like the zoomies, or, the brain that just keeps on. There's something you have to keep thinking about.
So I've been taking, I'm sure there's a recommended dosage on it says 5 milliliters.
There's a basic, well, the two things, it's because this is the United States and they don't actually use the metric system. So basically, if you're a young, healthy adult, let's say you weigh 160, 70 pounds, probably a teaspoon a day will do it for you. But if you got a little bit older, you got some gray hairs, and maybe a little extra weight, probably you're looking for a tablespoon. And you really don't need to go much more than a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons at the most, if you're maybe working on a health problem and you're older. Because it's C60 may have no toxicity at any level, but above some level, it's just like too much. So
You're
So
wasting it.
yeah, exactly. So beyond a shot glass of C60 at a time, it's probably not enough. Not though we have other people that do even more than that, and it has some other weird effects. We had a doctor who was like taking 4-ounce bottles at a time, and he swore he became
Wow.
psychic and could start reading people's minds. So,
Careful, careful. All my people love psychics.
yeah.
Yeah, what I do is I just take a swig in the morning, and then sometimes a swig in the around lunchtime if I'm. Yeah, it makes me feel good after after it starts moving around. I'm like, this feels great. So I take 1 to 2 swigs a day, and I don't measure anything out. Story of my life, but it's about that, about a tablespoon, I would guess, for my age and weight. And it seems to work great.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of things that have to. That's what people notice. They'll notice the energy increase almost immediately, and that's when the mitochondria uptake it. You're getting your ATP, and then there's another thing. Like we have like on our C60 Purple Power channel, we have like I think there's like 70 shows now. It's just been building them up one after the other. And one of the things is a lot of people have that in today's modern world, especially with all the junk in our food and in our water, and the radiation coming off wherever, and just all the things is really a low level amount of chronic inflammation. That's a real common, because there's 2 types. There's acute inflammation, like when you twist your ankle, right? It swells up. It's it goes in there. There's a whole bunch of the immune cells get in there, clean it up, all that kind of stuff, and that's good, right? But the problem is when you get chronic inflammation, where it's like arthritis or some other infection you don't even know you have because it's chronic, right? Or something you're eating, you got a gut problem, and that's when it really gets a problem. And part of that is when the body has like acute inflammation, it actually also affects your dopamine production, because if you've got like an injured ankle, the body doesn't want you to get up and be walking around, right? So it drops dopamine levels. That's the motivation molecule that gets you up in the morning, basically dopamine. So it drops those dopamine levels way the hell down, so that you just lie around till your ankle gets healed, right? And that's perfectly good when it's acute, but when it's chronic, you can get that same dopamine suppression going on in your body. And so when you take C60, it's a super antioxidant, so it gets rid of the oxidative radicals, which are causing that inflammation. The inflammation goes down, the dopamine suppression response goes down, and then you get your dopamine back. And all of a sudden you want to go out and do things that you hadn't done for quite a while. And that's actually means you probably did have an underlying chronic inflammation that you didn't even know about it. And a lot of us do, and just don't know about that.
That is something that I have been not toying with. I've been experiencing a lot of lately. Is as I get older, it's the inflammation, and that I know it's terrible for me. And hopefully, I haven't been taking it religiously. And with all this the new kick on the road to get your health back up, I have started taking it religiously again. And that's something that everybody needs to think about. All the things you can do to assist in the health without going through what they tell you. There was just an FDA. Now, C60 is not FDA approved. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's not FDA approved.
So the FDA has approved the addition of fluoride into the water, which they used to use to dumb down cows, but they have refused to approve C60, which is, I would say, the best antioxidant out there, but that is not a claim. Why haven't the FDA that we hear in the news these days, why haven't they improved these things that are natural and can help us? Do you have any explanation? Is there enough studies being done, or what's going on?
Well, that's one of the things. We have lawyers that we talk to that used to work for the FDA and know all that. Basically, there's 2 things. First off, C60, there's so many scientific studies with test animals proving the efficacy of C60, and some with humans, that it's something that if they really did take it to court, they might lose. And if they lose there, then they lose a whole lot of other things. So it's something that they really don't want to risk. And secondly, because C60 only dissolves slightly in oil, so there's an FDA rule that if anything's less than 0.1% of anything, you don't even have to list the contents. And that's how all those big companies sneak in, MSG and all that other stuff. They don't even have to list it because it's so. Actually, the amount of C60, let's say in olive oil or avocado oil, is actually 0.08%. That's just all the oil will hold. We just saturate the oil till it meets maximum, and that's maximum. So it's actually underneath their listed requirement thing. So even if they went after it, they say, well, our laws say you don't even have to list that if it was there. So they kind of work their way in a corner as far as C60. But one thing I want to say is, C60 doesn't heal or treat anything. It just lifts the oxidative burden your cells are under so that they can do the job, that they're meant to do. But, if you're not like eating healthy food, if you're not getting your mineral supplement, I recommend, say having mineral supplement and vitamins. Like if you're not getting your vitamin, we talk about it, the vitamin D and vitamin K, the chaga tea for certain things you can't talk about, your vitamin C, all of those things, like proper sleep, avoiding, one of the things we often talk about is avoiding what the seed oils, like the stuff, fried foods. Most fried foods, they're omega-6 rich seed oils, and they just cause massive amounts of inflammation. I know it tastes good. We're not perfect. That's what C60 can help. It helps covers, that little thing. But yeah, I mean, right now we really do have to think about what we're eating, and especially organic. The other thing I talk about, get organic foods, vegetables and fruits. They found that in 2 weeks, if you eat nothing but, if in your vegetable and organic fruits are all organic, in 2 weeks, you'll reduce your pesticide, herbicide burden in your body by testing by 90%. Just 2 weeks of organic food. So, and then other things, stay away from the glyphosates, right? They spray glyphosate in the United States on pretty much every grain. And then it soaks the grain, right? They spray it like wheat, wheat, barley, oats, they spray it right before harvest. So it kills all the plants. Then they harvest it. And then of course it's covered with glyphosate, right? I mean, they ban that in Russia and Italy. So if you really want to get good pasta, buy imported Italian pasta. Doesn't have glyphosate in it, and it's the right kind of pasta anyway.
Yeah, there's so many things that are tricking us up these days, and C60 can help with that. Let's talk about the program that we have at Road to Ruta. Road to Ruta customers are going to get 10% off Purple Power ordered through the affiliate link, which I don't have with me right now. Do you know what I think it's
actually I don't. We'll have to get that and list
it's going to be right below this video.
Oh, by the way, even if we are having a sale, let's say that's more than 10%, if you go through Bix's link, he gets credit for that sale. Okay. So if you're going to
get 10% off the sale price?
Yeah. No, they'll probably get there. They probably get 10 on top of the 20, but they'll get the 20% discount and you'll get credited for the sale. So excellent. If you're going to buy C60 Purple Power, go through Bix's link, which will be below in the show notes here.
I believe it's Road to Ruta. I'm going to flash it below the screen in editing, so you guys will know where to get it.
Yeah, so just always go through that link, and then he gets credit for the sale, which helps support him and all the things that he does. Because absolutely. As we all know, crazy stuff is coming down the line. I've just been seeing crazy. I mean, every day it's like a new experience.
Well, that's what I want to talk to you. We're going to be doing this every couple of weeks, having a discussion, because it's not just C60 that we're going to talk about. Ken Schwartz, Purple Power, thank you so much. We're going to have affiliate links pasted all over this video and below, so you can get your 10% off your C60. Very important that all you preppers out there get as much C60 as you're going to need to manage through the craziness. I suggest the big bottles. It's the best deal. This one's avocado oil, and get it from someone you know and trust. I know and trust Ken, and clearly he knows what he's talking about. Ken, thank you so much. Let's absolutely do it again. Do you got any final words for these crazy people?
No, just keep your attitude up. I mean, there will be the sun will rise tomorrow, the future will go on, and things will get rough. I'm sure they are, but beyond that roughness, there's, the potential for a really good future when all this garbage and corruption, which has been hanging around for a long time, it's really time to flush it and make a new and better world for all of us.
Great. Well said, Ken Schwartz. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
Yes.
All right. See ya.